Welcome back. All right, just a reminder, recap of something of a mini cabinet reshuffle today. Nobody was fired, but President Cyril Ramaphosa replacing Edna Molewa, who passed away, and Malusi Gigaba, who resigned. Nomvula Mokonyane, who was Minister of Communications, now Minister of Environmental Affairs. Siyabonga Cwele, the new Minister of Home Affairs, and Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams, a young minister, will head up the Communications Ministry. She was a deputy in the Telecommunications and Postal Services Ministry. She will now be basically heading up both ministries that are going to be merged according to the President. To discuss, we're joined by the ANC's national spokesperson, Pule Mabe. Thank you for being with us, Pule. So it's always strange to get political reaction from the ANC because you are also the governing party, but let's start with that.
Well, no thanks, and evening to your viewers. Our organization, the African National Congress, has welcomed the cabinet reshuffle that was announced earlier on by the President of the Republic, President Cyril Ramaphosa. We believe that one of the things that is demonstrated by this reshuffle is intergenerational mix, the retention of experience, but also making sure that the national executive, in the context of cabinet, is able to discharge its mandate without any hindrance, but also focus largely on our own program of unity and renewal going into the immediate future.
What about the promises of finally making the cabinet smaller?
Well, if there's one thing we must be doing here is to give President Ramaphosa a pat at the back. He has brought in a new pair of hands, but we saw with what happened, especially with the Ministry of Communication, the consolidation of both the Department of Telecommunications and Postal Services and the Department of Communications into one Ministry of Communications, which will now be led by the ever-energetic and able Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams. What this does is that it provides greater policy certainty. You would know that there are a number of things that the communication space itself is seized with. One of those is the rollout of the wireless open access network, the consolidation of spectrum auctioning, driving forward the the fourth industrial revolution. But also we believe that Stella Ndabeni will be able to use the might of her age to drive forward the hashtag data must fall movement with greater speed. There was already...
My question was on the size of the cabinet. It hasn't gone smaller. The President himself recently, when he came in, cited that as a concern, that our cabinet is too big.
Well, perhaps we might not have gotten each other right there, because this is what has happened. The consolidation of the two ministries, it means that where you had two ministers in the past of telecommunications and the Minister of Communications, you now have one minister.
But we still have three economic clusters.
Let me demonstrate to you part of what you have. You no longer have a deputy minister in the presidency. You no longer have Deputy Minister of Public Enterprise. You now have one Ministry of Communications, because we must appreciate where progress is being made. We must appreciate such. The fact that you have used this cabinet reshuffle to demonstrate commitment towards the reduction of the size of cabinet, that should be saying to the people of South Africa that we are committed to this pronouncement that we have made previously.
Batabile Dlamini has survived another cabinet reshuffle. She behaved in a similar manner to Malusi Gigaba, found to have lied to the courts. Are you not concerned that the opposition can use her running into next year's elections as a gift, a political gift?
Well, I'm not sure whether survival is the right word. Perhaps let's put the right context. The purpose of today's reshuffle was to deal with a number of issues. Address the resignation of Minister Malusi Gigaba, fill in a vacancy that had arisen following the passing on of Comrade Edna Molewa, consolidate the Ministry of Telecommunications and Communications into one ministry. So this was the focus of the reshuffle. You know,
that was the focus, but some would say maybe the focus should have been dealing with corruption, dealing with incompetence. Yes. To some people, she represents that, and was that not necessary ahead of the elections?
Well, I don't think that our organization, the ANC, as it discharges its mandate of leading the people of our country, need to be sidetracked. We need to, at all times, make sure that we determine our own agenda. If we allow opposition political parties to determine the agenda for us, we might as well invite them to come and write the manifesto for ourselves. I can tell you now that the tasks that we assist with currently, which tasks include unity and renewal, consolidating the efforts of all our structures to drive forward our electioneering efforts, make sure that we concentrate everyone. I mean, look at the Tumamena campaign that we are busy rolling out with greater speed. Going out of to communities, listening to people and their problems, working with them to find solutions to those. So the ANC is a repository of its own agenda and program. The ANC will set out its own agenda, the ANC will determine its own programs, and the ANC will address issues in its own pace and speed.
And what about the people of the country? Are you not going to be responsive?
The fact that each and every...
It sounds a little bit arrogant to say we will only do things our way.
No, I don't think that we are saying we'll only do things our way. The fact that we are going out and listening to people demonstrate a commitment on our part to make sure that the things we do are also informed by the wishes of the desires of the people on the ground. What I was trying to deal with was that you raised an issue around opposition parties. And I said that it will be like we will be relegating our duty of leading the people of South Africa if we allowed the opposition to determine our own agenda. So the ANC will, at its own pace, be able to determine and inform its own program going forward.
The President has reportedly now filed notice of intention to oppose that DA application about Bathabile Dlamini. Do you support him in efforts to really fight for her job? That's what's happening here.
Well, fully supported. I think that the principle here goes beyond Comrade Bathabile. I mean, if members of the opposition sitting in opposition benches where they were not entrusted by the people of South Africa to lead this country, can think that they can use the courts to determine for the governing party who it can and cannot appoint into a position of responsibility, then we've got a problem. Then it means that every time when we win the seat of power to lead the people of this country, we must first invite opposition parties to tell us how we must constitute cabinet.
All right, so this cabinet reshuffle basically moved aside your media briefing on a response to the claims coming up in the state capture inquiry. What's happening with that?
Well, that press briefing is still going on tomorrow. You will understand that a self-respecting organization like ours, acting with greater responsibility and accountability to the people of this country, when a major announcement has to be made by our leader, who's also the president of this country, we ought to be considerate so that we do not conflate issues. So we sought to create space to allow the president to make the kind of announcement he made, including changes to the national executive. Tomorrow at 1 o'clock, we will speak on the sidelines of the State Capture Commission, and we will restate the position of the African National Congress on the Zondo Commission into state capture.
Can you give us a hint of what you're going to talk about? Because more claims have come up. Recently, the former DG of Treasury saying Enoch Godongwana, a high official in the ANC, phoned him and said, oh, you're about to get a Gupta minister. The implication, as we were discussing last night, is that the ANC was sitting on their sidelines, if not being involved, then allowing, watching while state capture happened.
Well, perhaps to give context into this, it was the African National Congress led administration that effectively drove and led forward the charge towards the establishment of this important commission so that we can deal with the kind of problems, the blight that would have engulfed our country, allow those that might have issues which would be able to assist the work of the commission to come forward. We have consistently issued statements inviting our own members who might have information which could help the work of the state capture inquiry into the commission into state capture to come forward. Because if we know of things that would have undermined good governance, and we do not speak of those things, then commissions like these ones will not be able to fulfill and discharge their mandate effectively.
All right, so we're going to have to wait for tomorrow. We're running out of time, so I want to talk about quickly another issue affecting your party. It has been ANC nationally versus ANC in the Northwest. Supra Mahomapelo losing another court bid to stop the task team from submitting a list of nominees to Parliament. Just explain, what are these nominees? How is this all going towards normalising leadership in the Northwest?
Well, we have already established a provincial task team in the Northwest Province. That is convened by Comrade Job Mokoro, and the coordinator there is Comrade Kinetsu Musenuchi. There is a collective there that is working on creating normalizing the situation in the province, dealing with the challenges that could be arising. The list process, for instance, what we are doing now is that we are conducting what we call branch general meetings to allow members of the ANC throughout the length and breadth of our country to be able to nominate persons who would become public representatives, both in the National Assembly, the National Council of Provinces, and at various provincial legislatures, including in the Northwest. Of course, if our own members feel hard done by whatever decision, they are most welcome to approach our own National Dispute Resolution Committee. In certain instances, members do approach the courts from time to time. And we respect the choices that they elect to exercise. And we expect them that once decisions are made and pronounced by those structures, they too will act to respect those decisions, even if they were not in their favor.
All right, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Pule Mabe, national spokesperson for the ANC.